guys let me know when you're ready to roll. I take it everybody's ready? Fortney, you good?
Yes.
So bear with me, I am going to open with this statement, but it is going to be brief because I'm here to answer your questions. So clearly, the Facebook post I posted last night got a whole lot of attention, and that's why you're here today. Just a couple, first of all, I stand by it, I want to be clear about it. You're not going to see backtracking here. But I do want to clarify a couple things. Because what you're able to take from a Facebook post, I've gone back and read it several times, isn't always my intent. I guess the direct question is, have I changed the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office direction as far as enforcement goes? What's being said out there is the elected sheriff isn't going to enforce this. Folks, I want to say this loud and clear. I said this back on March 20th, the initial date of the governor's order, and that was on the recommendation of the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police on how law enforcement, local law enforcement, should approach this stay-at-home order. I went back and looked at that order that we posted on March 23rd, I think it was, and it is almost verbatim the language. The governor was looking for voluntary compliance of the order, and I said, that's great. We are not going to go around and arrest residents of Snohomish County for driving in their cars, or being out, or checking papers. That has not changed, and my Facebook post yesterday did not change that. Our enforcement action at the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office is the exact same it was yesterday as it is today. Want to clarify one other thing. Am I, as the Snohomish County Sheriff, taking COVID-19 as a serious threat? Absolutely. I have complied with everything the governor has said from day one. Everything. Okay. Not only that, I think the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office in total has done a really good job. And not only that, but inside of our corrections facility is a big deal with COVID-19. We don't want it in there. We were actually a shining light when it came to the Corrections Bureau, and we got calls as far away as the state of Georgia early on in this thing to ask us what we were doing because we were so far ahead of the curve. So yes, we absolutely take it seriously. With my post last night, is there a point in time where we can regroup, maybe ask some questions and kind of see where the data's coming in at? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's fair, and I think that's what I did last night. The other thing for clarification, and then I'll get to your questions, is, hey, is the elected sheriff calling for open defiance? No, I'm not, okay? I'm not calling for open defiance. What I am calling for is I want people to be treated equally by the government, whether that's local government or the state government. And I don't think this gets enough of attention from you guys as to his stay-at-home order and who can go make a living wage for their family and who cannot. Government workers, you can look at them outside of the courthouse. We're full construction mode. We are still working, okay? I'm very thankful that I have this job, okay? There are folks in our community, and I think there's not a lot of people, and I would say very few elected officials speaking on their behalf. I have had these conversations for weeks, okay? This was not listening to the governor's press conference last night and then sitting down and writing something. I meant what I said. I had put pen to paper weeks ago. So the thought was there. I wanted to comply with the governor. I still will comply with the governor. I want people to be safe, okay? I want some leadership from him. I want a plan out of this. I was hoping to get that last night. I've been hoping for weeks. We all sit here at work and we anxiously await these press conferences and we think, okay, this is it. At least a pathway out, some little piece of inspiration, some hope. We didn't get any of that from him. And then last night, I would say, in my opinion, not only did we not get that from him, hang on one sec, I'm almost done and I'll answer all your questions, is that not only did we not get that from him, but we almost, in my opinion, took a step backwards. It was very confusing what he had to say. There was no clear direction, no clear path. So anyway, I think the conversation is good. The conversation is worth having. These are very unique and strange times we're in. And if anything, if my Facebook post definitely started some conversation, there's no doubt about it, that's a good thing. Anyway, I'll take your questions.
Sheriff, it seems like your post was aimed at small business owners and saying, if you are struggling to keep your business alive, if you are struggling to keep food on the table, then go ahead and work, open your business, and we will not stop you. Is that not what you were trying to say?
Yeah, no, not entirely, but I'll own that. You could take that from that. I understand, but the second to the last paragraph, what did it say? It said, it is time for Snohomish County government, who has been doing really well, okay? Really well through this whole thing. We work well together. Doesn't matter if you have an R by your name, a D by your name, Snohomish County government has done well. All I was saying was, let's get together as government and see if there's a different path for Snohomish County, just as you're seeing other counties do across the state, mainly in eastern Washington. I understand why it's a bigger deal over here. So, I guess that.
But what do you say to a business owner right now who says, I gotta open up, otherwise I'm gonna be out of business and never be able to reopen?
I want the governor to answer that damn question. That's what I want. I think he should be up there answering that question. Why is it okay that we can build a school right now? That is okay. No personal protective equipment, no social distancing, but we can build a school. But there's private contractors who maybe they drive an excavator for a living and own their construction business, drive by that school every day, and he can't drive to his job site to make a living. I want the governor to be asked that question. I want to speak on behalf of the people who I don't think they've had a fair voice in this whole thing. We've all played well together, if you will. We've got along good, okay? I'll even give the governor some credit. Nobody can be perfect in this situation in leadership. You can't be. It's impossible, okay? Big decisions need to be made all of the time, okay? But we're 2+ months into this now, okay? And there's been a lot of pressure, not from me, from master builders, from all sorts of people all over the state. The question about private sector construction versus government. I think that question should go right back to the governor.
Chef, talking
Yes,
about
sir.
the governor, about 20 minutes ago, he had a press conference.
Yep.
One of his press conferences. He addressed you by name, and he said, this is a quote, he says, we cannot have individual law enforcement officers arbitrarily decide which laws they're going to enforce and which they're not going to enforce. If anyone has disagreements, they can take it to court. Are you willing to go to court with this?
I don't know if it's going to come to that or not. I hope not. I really don't. I don't think it's arbitrary enforcement of the law. If that's the case, is the governor releasing 1,100 felons from prison who've already been sentenced? Is that arbitrary decision making on his part? I would say it probably is, and I'm against that as well. Okay. So again, I'm going to stress again. I already said this. The Snohomish County Sheriff's Office enforcement of his stay-at-home order has not changed from the first night of the order to today. The Facebook post did not change that at all. So there are no local law enforcement driving around, checking people's papers, or arresting people for violating the orders. We're not going to do that. There is discretion in law enforcement. There is discretion every single day. And I am not about, as the Snohomish County Sheriff, to start arresting residents for violating a stay-at-home order when we're releasing criminals en masse from the prison system. That's not going to happen.
Sheriff Fortney, is there an enforcement for people breaking the stay-at-home order? Was there something provided from the governor's office that says local law enforcement can go by D's enforcement protocol in regards to the stay-at-home order?
Absolutely, yes. There is an enforcement component. I believe it's a gross misdemeanor.
Okay, so that's something that exists across the board.
Absolutely.
And
And
so
a lot
for the last 2 weeks, what I'm hearing you say is like that hasn't happened, but that's been normal protocol regardless. Like you haven't been arresting folks for doing this.
Absolutely, the Snohomish County Sheriffs have not. They've not arrested anybody. I'm not aware anyway of a police agency in our county that has made an arrest on it. I can't speak for other agencies, but I'm not aware of it.
So because the headline's going to be like Fortney doesn't enforce stay-at-home order.
Yeah.
You said it's been something that hasn't changed in 2 weeks, and you had this post ready for 2 weeks. For you, why did you put it up now? What is the point? What would you want people to hear? Your words.
It's pretty simple, man. These are important times, okay? We have folks where, understandably so, to start with, we can't go to church on Sundays. That's a big deal. That's guaranteed to us in the Constitution. And if it merits that, which I think it did initially, okay, so be it. That's okay. I'm looking for leadership from the governor, not just, when I say leadership, not just for people he thinks who should be able to go out and make a living wage, okay? I think it should be fair and across the board. I'm an elected official. I work for the government. I make sure every day over 800 Snohomish County Sheriff's Office employees, we treat people like others would want to be treated. We do the right thing at the right time for the right reasons, okay? And I'm sitting here answering your questions. I still don't know to this day why the governor thinks it's different between private sector and government contractors. One can go out and make a living for their family, and one cannot. That was the bulk of my Facebook post. The vast majority of it was about the unfairness. I've been patient, I've been quiet. I think not only, I know I'm taking a lot of heat for what I said, not only do I think it was appropriate to question government, I think we're obligated to as elected officials. And I understand, I'm gonna take heat for that, and that's okay.
Given that peak infections in the state were back, I believe, on March 28th.
Yep.
We're more than 3 weeks past the peak,
Yep.
and the numbers are going in the right direction. Are you advocating for the restrictions to be lifted? Are you saying that we should go by way of Georgia and Tennessee and other states, South Carolina, to look at easing these restrictions? And if so, let me get your opinion on a Washington Post article that just ran today. It says states rush to reopen as a deadly error. Models and experts warn will almost certainly lead to more coronavirus infections and deaths.
Yeah, you can quote anything you want about. That's the problem with this thing, is you can quote anybody, any newspaper, any doctors out there. It is all over the map. I'm not standing before you to say I'm an expert in the sciences or health or anything else like that. Now, as a public official, with all of the things I've already stated, do I think we should be looking at those other states? What information, we keep telling us all about the science. I don't disagree with that, I agree with that. But what are other states they're opening? Okay, what is the science telling our governor that we can't open yet? Maybe he's right, I don't know, but he's not out there saying it. Yeah, if the science in Washington State, which the governor is being told, is saying, no, we can't do this, people are gonna get hurt. But in several states, and more every day around the country, are saying, no, that's not what our science is telling us. Where is the truth? All I'm saying is, as Snohomish County, can we get together as elected officials and talk about this? Maybe there's a path for us, maybe there's not. But let's talk about it. The conversation is worth having.
But really, is that your job? You're the top law enforcement
Yep.
officer in this county. You're elected to enforce the law, not interpret the
Yep.
law, not make the law. So what would you say to critics say you're by saying this is unconstitutional, you're interpreting the law, you're supplanting your judgment for the courts?
I don't think that's exactly what I said. I think is the governor, are his decisions to stay at home order intruding on our constitutional rights? I don't think you can say otherwise. They are. Now, he does have some authority in that area, absolutely. But he damn well better be right. And there better be a good reason behind it. I'm saying maybe it's time, now that we're 2+ months in, to sit down and have a conversation about that. You'll notice, I wasn't up here, I wasn't doing Facebook posts in the initial stages of this thing. I was all in. No one knew what was what direction this was gonna go 2 months ago. It looked horrific, okay? Now some other data is coming in. Let's get in the room and talk about it, okay? Is it time? Maybe we can open up residential construction. I mean, come on, you guys. If Boeing can put 27,000 people in one building with protections in place and social distancing, why can't a private contractor go dig a ditch on the side of the road and make a living for his family? That's a valid question.
It's a valid question, but I mean, the way you ask it, you're basically saying that this is unfair. You're making a judgment on the order. Your job is to enforce the order, is it not? Not to interpret it?
Absolutely not. We're an elected official. These are serious constitutional questions, okay? And when you say, do we enforce the order? I don't know if what you're saying I should go out and arrest residents for violating it, or I don't think anybody in government is saying that, no matter what side of this you may be on. And clearly I'm on the side of no, we're not gonna arrest residents for violating this order. So we have discretion in law enforcement on all different types. Every day we use our discretion. I'm choosing to use our discretion with this and saying, I don't think it's bad to ask, there were some direct questions, there's no doubt about it. Was I calling them out on the disparate treatment of private sector employees versus public sector? Yeah, I was. Those are all good and valid questions to have. So, I think we are doing things right at the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office. And again, I'm gonna reiterate for the third time, our enforcement approach has not changed since day one of this pandemic, okay? The Facebook posts did not change any of that, and it is in line with what every other police agency in Washington State is doing.
Does that mean, Sheriff, that you will go out, send your deputies out if you were getting a direct complaint of a violation of this stay-at-home order, and still go out there and give a warning to people and say that you're in violation of this, or will you tell your deputies, don't waste your time?
I have been very clear about this, and I am giving discretion to our sergeants who are supervisors out in the streets. Those calls all go to them. Now, if it's a consistent thing and you've got 4 or 5 calls and a lot of upset neighbors, probably appropriate to drive out there and have a talk. If it's one call and the sergeant chooses that route, what you just described was, no, we're not gonna deal with this, I am completely okay with that, yes.
Sheriff, what happens if in the next, because we've been down, luckily on the downward
Yes,
trend, which is good. If in the next few weeks we see the numbers go up, is enforcement going to return? I mean, are you gonna come back here and say, you know what, we've re-examined some things?
So in order for enforcement to return, there would have to have been some type of enforcement in the first place. I just watched the governor's press conference, and he said there's been one case in Washington State of actual enforcement. Okay, and it was in Tacoma for something unrelated to criminal stuff. So, no, we're gonna continue down the same path. What the other gentleman just asked about, would we respond to a 911 call? Yes, if it's creating an issue in a neighborhood, that's what we do, okay? Are we gonna arrest people for it? No, we are not gonna arrest residents in Snohomish County for violating the stay-at-home order. We are not gonna.
You kind of touched on this. What is the policy that you set out with your sergeants when it comes to calls of people violating, you know, the stay-at-home order or the gatherings of 10 people or whatever it happens to be? What's the procedure in the department? Does it go to and I guess a follow-on to that, when does it come to you to make a decision?
It's already been made. I made it back on March 23rd, 2020, under the recommendation of the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs.
So I guess my question is,
Okay.
what is that policy? What is the
It's what I just said. I let our guys, as they do every day in police work, use their discretion when it comes to enforcing the law. That's what we do. You don't want a police agent, I mean, think about it. You can't, we have several crimes that are a mandatory arrest. It means the legislature has taken our discretion away. And that's okay. Domestic violence, worthy, okay, all good. But you can't make that en masse with every violation of criminal law. Okay, so we have discretion every day. The sergeants have discretion, and the deputies to a certain extent have discretion. So if it becomes a bigger issue in a neighborhood, I don't know how else to say it. Yeah, we'll come out and address it. We are not gonna make physical arrests.
Have you had issues come to your desk that could have been resolved at the lower ranks
Not one.
regarding this?
Not one.
Sheriff, do you think just a lot of people are sort of misunderstanding your viewpoint on this, and that you don't want people out going and openly defying the order that's still in place until at least May 4th, but at least have some type of discussion about where do we go from here? Is that kind of the crux of it?
I think you just summed it up really well, thank you. Yes, yes, that was what I was trying to get to, but maybe I didn't do quite so good a job. That's what I was trying to say. I wanna have a conversation, I really do. These are tough questions, okay? And they're very important questions. None of us have been through any of this stuff before. Again, I'm gonna go back to the governor. I think we should be asking him why certain people can work and why others can't work, okay? I'm not doubting the severity of COVID-19. Again, I am with everybody, okay? It is real. Let me give you a real quick personal example. My mom is way up there in age, okay? From day one of this thing, we were like, Mom, stay at home. We got you. We'll bring you groceries, all that other kind of stuff. So not only professionally am I taking it seriously, I'm taking it seriously on the personal side, okay? All I'm saying is maybe it's time we sit down and have a discussion, okay? The impacts to people who I don't think have had a voice in this from elected officials, I want to try to give them a voice. There are people who, they can't go 2 months without a paycheck. They can't do that, okay? And if we are able to safely, cautiously, with precautions in place, get some folks back to work, we should be talking about that today, not 2 weeks from now.
Sheriff, have you reached out? Have you reached out to Governor Inslee himself? Have you made that call?
I have not.
Why not? Why go to Facebook? Why not go to him first?
So I have not reached out to the governor, and I guess that's a decent question. I have reached out to other local officials in county government. Okay, this didn't stem from just Adam sitting down and having a random thought. This has been a conversation for the last 3 weeks in our community, and that's why it became so important to me. Yes, I personally felt that way. There's no doubt about it. Those are my personal thoughts on there. But it came from conversations with other officials in government, with friends, with family, with people I come across in the street that want to talk to me about this, because this is the topic every day. I think this is clearly, I mean, the Facebook posts kind of proved it. I struck a nerve, and other people were thinking what I happen to put pen to paper. And if I got to take some heat for that, that's okay with me.
So why not go to him personally, though? And then if he doesn't answer you, then you go to Facebook.
I don't know that I even have a path to go to him personally, but yeah, it's a valid question.
How much interaction have you had with the governor since this? I mean, we had this Snohomish County, the second worst rate of infections in the whole state. Can you give us an idea of your interactions and your communication with the governor these last 2 months?
No, I haven't had interactions with the governor on a personal. So I haven't looked him in the eye. I haven't been on a phone call with him. I want to be really clear. Okay. But what I have done, as far as when this thing was first kicking off, we had daily briefings with all local officials within Snohomish County. So that was more my angle as far as the state angle. And so now, when we meet together with the county executive, county council, the health district, all these on the daily briefings, there would be messages from the governor contained within that, So I wouldn't say that I was completely out of the loop or disengaged or anything like that. We were very much engaged, but there wasn't direct engagement with the governor. That's the
Sheriff,
question. Yes, sir.
Isn't it a little bit of a dog whistle for you to bring up Second Amendment in your Facebook post? That tends to ring with a certain group of people, including a lot of the people who were outwardly disobeying the governor's social distancing order.
Right.
By bringing that up, what was your purpose of bringing up the guns and gun shops? Marijuana, I get it, but why guns? Why do you have to compare them? What is the comparison?
And speaking of the rally, was there enforcement action taken by the governor? Let me think.
There was none.
Okay, there wasn't, okay.
They were able
Just
to do
curious.
whatever they did.
I wanna make sure that's clear. Second Amendment is very important to me, okay? By far, both during my campaign last year and since I've taken office, bar none, there is no question that I get that even comes close to Second Amendment questions, okay? I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment, okay, always have been. So you can describe it how you want, it's important to me, and when he shut down gun shops but opened up pot shops, yeah, I'm gonna say something about that.
Why the comparison? Why do
Why
pot
not?
shops offend you?
They don't offend me. How are they essential? That's what I would say. They're pot shops. They're people buying
An
dope,
example
okay,
might
to
be
smoke
medical
for
marijuana.
recreational
How
use.
about medical marijuana?
Okay, then go back to the medical part. What percentage of it is medical and what percentage is recreational use?
And did you contact the county executive, talk to the county executive or the health director, Dr. Stickland, before you posted your Facebook post?
Absolutely not, no.
Sheriff, I know you're focused on your
You noticed
county.
that the governor's office, I think, made a comment, his chief of staff said something that people shouldn't be relying on a sheriff's Facebook post for health or public, or for health or, well, health reasons.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment.
Well, did you, when you posted that Facebook post, did you realize that as the elected sheriff here in this office, in this county, and someone who's sworn to uphold the Constitution, that you might be fomenting civil unrest?
I don't think we're anywhere near that at all. I don't.
But do you see the possibility that people, I mean, look at the responses, I mean,
So
sure
what are you
you've
saying,
been
don't
reading
question the
them.
government? No, I think it's okay to question the government, especially, not only that, not only is it okay, we're obligated to in these times, okay? There's nothing wrong with the conversation. Is it a heated conversation right now? Yeah, that's okay.
Is it a conversation that maybe you should have as the sheriff with the governor or with the county executive or with the health officials before you go public with it? Because you are an elected official, people pay attention to you.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so why didn't you do that?
I guess I was waiting on leadership from the governor. I really was. I meant what I said prior to when you came in here, is that this thing really was written weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago. And every press conference, we anxiously await for him to come and we're thinking, okay, this is it, this is the one. We're gonna have a pathway out of it, something at least to hang some hopes on. And we haven't gotten that. And then I guess last night was just kind of the last straw. I left that press conference last night thinking, oh, there is no plan, okay? And I don't know. Listen, you can take away with it what you want, but rewatch it if you want. It was confusing. It was hard to even follow what he was saying. We need better and more clear leadership in times like this.
Sheriff, to your point that
Yes,
this
sir.
is an issue outside of Snohomish County, you know what's going on in Franklin County. You
Oh,
saw
yeah.
the action taken by the Board of Commissioners there.
Yeah.
The governor's office sent a letter basically today saying that this does not insulate your people, your businesses. If they're in violation of this stay-at-home order, they are still subject to all the penalties in that order. So what do you say to your businesses or your people here who might take what you've done and say, okay, this is gonna insulate me from any sort of enforcement at the state level?
That's a good question and it's difficult. So we are the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office. We don't go around and enforce whether your business is open or not, okay? So let's get that. I think I've been clear about that, all right? Now, are there other agencies that could come in and take enforcement action? Yeah. So I would recommend against that. I would.
Recommend against what? Opening up?
Yeah.
In violation of the state order?
Yeah. I don't wanna see anybody get in trouble, okay? But also, on the other hand, I think in these very important and strange times we're in, people just elected me, they deserve to know my stance on this, whether you agree with me or not. You're gonna know my position, and I think that's okay. I think we've started a healthy discussion here.
Have there been discussions that your deputies have had with folks who may be in defiance of the order, not arrests, not taking them to jail, what have you? Have there been discussions that some deputies have had with people defying the order, and has anybody given out citations or tickets for violation, not necessarily arrest, but.
Yeah, so I think I can speak positively, there's been no citations or anything like that, because the result of a violation is an arrest, or at least a criminal referral. And whether there's been conversations, we're just
Like
too big an
references
office.
to the health department, you know, anything along those lines?
I can only speak for the sheriff's office, and has there been conversations by our patrol personnel? I'm sure there have, but I can't speak to any specific examples, I just can't, I'm not aware of it.
You referenced a sheriff's association letter
Yes.
that went out. Are other sheriffs in other parts of the state doing exactly what you are doing in terms of, you know, the enforcement levels and you know, sort of in opposition to the way this stay-at-home order is playing out? I get the feeling that if you go to Eastern Washington, this is probably what's happening everywhere.
So I don't wanna speak for other sheriff's offices, that's for darn sure, okay, I don't wanna do that. What I can speak from the association is they just give out recommendations, okay, to us as an association. You can take them or not, as an independently elected sheriff. What they said was in line with my thought process, which is, we're not gonna go around and arrest people for this. To the best of my knowledge, that has been the standard, not only in Western Washington, but all of Washington state. And again, I'm gonna say for the fourth time, my position on that, on enforcement, has not changed from when we put it out initially on March 23rd to where we stand today. And nothing in my post changed that last night.
If the governor called you, what would you tell him?
I'm sorry, what was that?
If the governor called you, what would you say to him?
I would probably say the exact same things we're saying in here today. I think I'm obligated to. So listen, I can't do a post like I did last night and then, one, not face you guys if you got questions. That wouldn't be the right thing to do. And if the governor wants to call and have a conversation, I'm more than willing to do that. More than willing.
And Sheriff, let me ask you about the lack of plan. I've listened to the governor's news conference and written many stories about this.
Okay.
And I understand the plan to be that the governor consults with his health officials, depending on the data that they've had. And the data's been horrible up to this point, probably still is.
Okay.
Okay? And based on that, they've recommended that we undergo what we're undergoing right now, till at least May 4th. That seems like a plan, right? After May 4th, and I think the governor said it last night, and it's been said a couple of times, after May 4th, he's gonna allow some businesses and some relaxation of some of these regulations. That sounds like a plan too, right?
I did not hear what you just said in his press conference last night. Any dates? I didn't hear the May 4th date. I know that's the date now for lifting this order if we're able to.
Well, but it's been talked about before. In fact, it's the date that the Department of Health put out.
All I heard last night was we're gonna put a plan together and a plan won't. That's what I heard last night. And sir, if you took it differently, I respect that. But
No,
that's
I'm saying,
what I heard.
are you aware though of what I've been mentioning to you, other than the news conference last night? Have you been reading news stories or keeping up with other media outlets or other outlets of information that would give you some idea that this is sort of the way that we're going? We isolate for a period of time, we get better testing during that time, depending on what testing shows, they relax the restrictions. That sounds like a plan, right?
No, not to me, not necessarily, no.
What would your plan be? How would you do this?
I want to, well, one, I would want county government to get together, okay, talk about this. Yes, the
Well,
data is
but it's a
important.
statewide problem.
Right,
so-
I wanna know what other states are doing too. Why are other states able to open up with precautions in place and a gradual opening up? Nobody ever called for Snohomish County to open up business tomorrow. Those words never left my mouth and I never said that, okay? Is it time that maybe we can get some businesses back? Yes, I think that is reasonable. Now, if there is some science out there that says otherwise, I'm open to listening to it, okay? But if Boeing can open up a 27,000 person facility with precautions in place and be deemed essential, which I'm fine with, it's a big company, okay? Why can't someone who owns, like I already mentioned this, I don't know if you were in the room or not, a small construction company, runs an excavator and wants to go out and make a living, why can't we have those conversations? We still being protected, he's still not around people, he's still social distancing.
Are you sure that an individual contractor can't go out and work?
I'm sure, because I've been trying, yeah, absolutely.
Are you a contractor?
No.
Do you have a business on the side of being sheriff?
Yes,
And has it been affected by COVID?
no, not at all, not at all. One more question, anybody?
The Snohomish County prosecutors said he was worried your words would be interpreted by some.
Yep.
That they would grant license willfully and blatantly violate the law. Did you have a response to that?
One more time, can you tell me what, I read it, but it's not on the
Yeah,
forefront.
he said that your words, he was worried your words could grant license to willfully and blatantly violate the law. So you say you don't want people to defy the order, but is there concern, do you have any concern that your rhetoric could encourage that?
Because we live in a free country. We're able to go around and drive around right now. Again, there is not a police agency that I'm aware of in Washington State that is checking your papers, checking while you're traveling or anything else. So you can't have it both ways. When I guess when the elected prosecutor
Speak
talks
to the
about,
microphone.
sorry, what talks about enforcement, I guess I would respond with a question, what type of enforcement is he talking about? Okay, we're not gonna go around and arrest people, and I don't think he would want us doing that either.
And I guess to go a step further, and this probably speaks to what the other reporter was saying about fomenting civil unrest. Yesterday, an Oak Creek man was arrested for calling in a death threat to the governor. And he cited that he thought that his constitutional rights and constitutional rights of everyone was being violated. And he basically said he wanted to see Inslee hang for it.
That's abhorrent, and I would never support it, period.
But are you concerned that your words could encourage other people like him to say similar things?
No, because I can't speak to what's in his head and what encouraged him. I have no idea, so no. Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Sure.
Yep.
Thank you.